Alright, now that we are looking at our equations and thinking about them like they are balanced, now I want to start getting into some properties of addition. Sentences and equations. And the first one we're going to take a look at is called the commutative property, or I like to call it the flip-flop property. This is going to help me remember what this is. So the commutative property is the flip-flop property. And let me explain what I mean by that. If you take a look at this number sentence, 7 plus 9 equals 16. Okay? What the commutative property tells me is that I can flip-flop the addends. Addends are the two numbers that we add together. I can flip-flop the addends and they will give me the same sum. The sum is your answer. So we have addends sorry for the terrible writing. Okay, addends, you'll see this on our vocabulary board when you get to class. And we have sum. Okay? Addends are the numbers that you are adding together in an addition sentence, and the sum is your answer. So in this case, 7 and 9 are your addends, and the number 16 is your sum. Okay? So the commutative property tells me that I can flip-flop my addends, I can flip-flop those numbers, and I'm still going to get the same answer. And let me show you what that looks like. If I took 7 and 9, okay, and I took those apples, let's move them over here for a second, and I flip-flop them, and I change the order, okay? So instead of 7 plus 9, I have 9 plus 7. I'm still going to get 16. If I take these 9 apples and add them to 7 apples, it doesn't matter which order I add them, I'm still going to get a total of 16 apples. And you guys may see a chart that looks like this, okay, to illustrate this. You may see a chart where you have a big rectangle or a big line, okay, in addition, and there's like a question mark in here, and then you have these two rectangles here where the two addends go, okay? And you would have, in this case, you would have 9 plus 7 equals that big bar, the 16, okay? So the commutative property tells me that I can flip-flop my addends and I will still get the same answer. I can either do 9 plus 7 or I can do 7 plus 9. It's still going to give me 16. The next property is called the associative property or the grouping property. This one, think about the parentheses that you're going to see soon. This will help you with the associative property. It's called the grouping. This is very similar to the commutative property, but it involves more than two addends. And you'll often see parentheses in the equation. And let me show you what that looks like. Okay. In this case, we have the number sentence 3 plus 5. The parentheses tell me that if I'm going to start to solve this problem, I first want to start with 3 plus 5 because they're inside the parentheses. And then I would add the 2. So 3 plus 5 plus 2 equals 10. And basically, what the associative property is telling me is that I can actually take these parentheses and I can move them, okay? And I can group the numbers in any way I want, but it's still going to give me the same answer. If I add 5 plus 2 first and then add 3, I'm still going to get 10. And you can see that by these apples. It doesn't matter how I group those apples down there, if I add them all together, I'm still going to have 10 apples. Even if I change the numbers all around and move them in and out like this, even if I were to do something like this, I'm changing the grouping, but I'm still going to get the same answer. So the associative property, it's also known as the grouping property. Remember those parentheses. Those parentheses are grouping, okay? And what they're telling me is I can change the grouping of my addends, the numbers I'm adding, and it doesn't matter the grouping, I'm still always going to get that same answer. 5 plus 3 plus 2, no matter how I group them, is always going to give me the answer 10. Okay? And finally, we have the very last property, and this one's the easiest one to remember. It's real simple. It's called the identity property, or also known as the zero property, because this has to do with the number 0. And basically, the identity property tells me that when I add any number to 0, or if I add 0 to any number, I'm always going to get that number. So in this case, 5 plus 0, 5 plus nothing equals 5. And the way you can remember this for the identity property is that when you add 0 to any number, it's going to keep its identity. And identity is who you are. So the number 5 won't change who the number 5 is when nothing is added to him. Okay, so this is real simple. The zero property, the identity property. Whenever you add a number to 0, or if you add 0 to any number, it's always going to be that number. 5 plus 0 equals 5. 0 plus 5 equals 5. It's going to keep, the number is going to keep its identity. It will not change. And that's the 3 properties of addition that we're going to talk about this year. All right, good luck, guys.